Kindle Fire HD Reassembly. First, you will need to put back on the midboard. You will need to guide the two flex cables at the top through the midboard. Now replace the two phillips screws at the top of the midboard. Now replace the camera by putting it in its place and then reattaching the cable. Now to put back the motherboard. It has to go back in at an angle with the ports going in first. Now to put back in the screws. You will need 3 of the large flat-headed screws. 2 of them will go at the top corners of the board and 1 at the bottom left. Next, you will reattach the flex cables at the top of the board. Now to put in the headphone board. You will also need to put the headphone board back in at an angle. Now replace the 2 phillips screws to hold it in. Now to put in the volume power flex cable. When putting this back in place, you will need to lay it flat on its back so that the little lock mount will slide underneath the midboard. Once you have it in place, you will then need to plug the flex cable into the headphone board. Now to put back in the headphone flex cable. Make sure that the lock flap is in the upward position and then reseat the flex cable and then lock it back down. Now do the same thing with the connection on the motherboard. Now for the speaker assemblies. You have to remember that you must attach the Wi-Fi antenna first. All you have to do is place the Wi-Fi antenna in place, and the adhesive should be strong enough to hold it in place. Once the antenna is in place, you can then put the speaker assembly on top of it. Use your flat tool to reattach the speaker cable to the motherboard. And now to put back the phillips screw. And now for the other speaker assembly. Simply put it back in place, and then put back the 2 phillips screws in the speaker assembly. and then reroute the speaker cable to plug back into the motherboard. Now would be a good time to put the remaining screws back into the motherboard. Now to put back the battery. You'll need to lift up the Wi-Fi antenna and then slide the battery into place. Now reconnect the battery cable to the motherboard. And then put back in the 5 Phillips screws that hold down the battery. Now to reroute the Wi-Fi antenna. You'll notice that there are metal notches on the Wi-Fi antenna. These match the brackets that go around the battery. Use your flat tool to press down the metal portions of the Wi-Fi antenna into the brackets that go around the battery. Once you have done that all the way down the Wi-Fi antenna, you can now plug the Wi-Fi antenna into the motherboard. And now you can reapply the copper tape on top of the motherboard and the battery. And now, if you haven't already, replace the 2 Phillips screws that go in the midboard located here. Now to put back the power button and the volume buttons. The buttons do have an upside and a downside. You'll notice that they follow the contour of the casing. Once you have the volume buttons in place and you've made sure all the cables are connected, you can then reapply the back case. The back case simply snaps back in place. And now it's time to turn on the device to make sure everything works.